Juan Galt, I got love for you. I know we've disagreed on some things, but I got love for you. Just not that that's important. Just letting you know. Just being friendly.
Well, I certainly don't hate anybody. I don't have anything against you at all.
Are you still stuck on the whole the government is right because it says it's right? Not to be contentious. Not trying to be contentious. I'm just trying to get a radar blip on where you are now. Is the government still right because it says it's right? Is that what's up?
Well, let's see. I don't think I've had that thought since I was 15.
Do you defend what the current government does, especially against people accused of non-violent victimless crimes, quote unquote?
Do I do what about that?
Do you defend? I know you're drunk. It's fine. It's whatever. Do you defend what the government does against people accused of non-violent victimless criminal, quote unquote, charges? Do you defend what the government does against people like that? Non-violent victimless.
No, I've never defended government on victimless crimes. I've committed quite a few in my day.
Fair enough. Fair enough. However, well, that's not important. All right. So, what's your current? And I'm not trying to pick a fight. God knows that's not what I'm trying to do right now. For real, my friend. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just trying to get information. To be sincere. What's your current position? Like, what are you doing here? What's your input on this whole situation? Where is your stance?
That's kind of broad. This whole situation, I don't know what situation you're referring to.
It is broad. It was meant to be broad. So if that's okay, I'll get specific. If you had like a genie come out of a bottle, he was like, "Hey, you get a couple wishes. Good for you. Lucky you. You get to alter the political landscape. What is your wish? What would you say?"
I'm not a big guy of fantasy. You could have just said, what would you change if whatever. But anyway, I enjoyed the genie. I would, based on my study of humans and political science and stuff like that, I think the Constitution as originally written and interpreted is a pretty ingenious document. So I would probably, if I'm going to live in a big country like the United States, I think that document, that form of government would be a good one if there has to be one. So I would change. So I would change everything back to that, and I think if we just started and repealed 1913 and got rid of the 16th and 17th Amendments and got rid of the Federal Reserve,
and the 19th. But go ahead.
I think I think most Americans would be really happy and wouldn't feel like slaves and stuff like that.
I mean, that was written 240 plus years ago when the means of transporting information was by horseback. So there might be some flaws in it that wouldn't be applicable to today. I mean, that might be fair, right? Anyway, Juan Galt, where were we? We were talking about...
I can answer your question. The Constitution, whenever it was written or however long ago, sets forth certain principles. It's based on principles, and those principles that it's based on, I believe, should be universal. Unfortunately, on planet Earth, they're not. But so the constitutional principles that I look to don't change with the date on a calendar.
So you believe in the constitutional principles. Is that a correct statement?
I believe on the principles on which the Constitution was written.
Okay,
You believe
on the principles upon which the Constitution was written. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay. How long have you believed that?
Since I studied it in great depth and read all the debates about it that they had regarding it, all the correspondence they had in between each other, describing and laying out their views on it and different things like that. Yeah.
That sounds like years ago. Like how many years ago would you say that was?
Well, it was political science was one of my undergraduate degrees, but I studied some on my own prior to that, just curiosity as a young teenager.
So I'm guessing that must be like 30 years or something like that. Is that right? Or more, maybe 40, whatever. Right?
Yeah, it's more like coming on 50.
Fair enough. Okay. So, wow, that's a long time to believe in a belief. That's a long time to believe in a belief. So, my question is, if you came across a discussion that made it possible where maybe, just maybe, not certainty, but maybe, that belief was wrong, how would you react to that? I mean, what is the truth to you? Is it worth changing, even though you might have believed in something for 30, 40, or 50 years? What would it cost you? I know I'm compounding questioning this nonsense, but I'm just going somewhere with this. What if you were confronted with something that made that wrong? How would you react?
Well, maybe if I was a younger person, I would be more malleable, but I'm not. The principles, they're still, in my opinion, first principles of humans living together. And I don't think there's anybody that could make an argument that would change my belief that those principles are good, moral.
Well, I'm not trying to. Okay, so it seems to me that you shifted the goalpost there. And I'm not saying you did it intentionally or maliciously. I'm trying to recenter the goalposts. Because what you just said could be defended throughout time. I'm not trying to go there. So,
well, it would seem to me that if you were going to go down this rabbit hole, your first question would have been, well, Galt, what are these principles of which you speak? But you didn't even do that. You didn't explore. That's the Socratic method. You would have you would have proffered a Socratic question, which is, and what are those principles to which you speak? But you didn't do that.
I'm not there yet. And even if that was an appropriate place to go, who knows? I'm not suggesting it is. But even if it was, I'm just not there yet.
Well, then you certainly can't be at the point of suggesting that those principles that I believe in, or my belief in those principles, could be changed or could be shown a new light. You're making that assumption, but then on the other hand, you're saying I can't. You're not curious as to what those principles are that would even be worth giving up, or anybody even challenging them.
But you understand, and I take it well. I take it without any malice. But you're kind of criticizing me for shit I haven't done yet, which is kind of hard to take. You know what I mean? That's not an argument. It's not even a counter. You're saying, well, you should have done this, and you should have said, like, really? Should I have? Maybe that's in the future. Like, don't blame me for doing something wrong because I didn't ask something in the way you would like it or want it or think that it's logically necessary to ask, right? Like, if I did that to you, you wouldn't like it. I'm not doing that to you. All I'm saying is this, and here, see, this is how you know you're on point, when you trigger shit like this. All I'm asking is, and this is what I just asked, and apparently it ruffles your feathers. What if you might be confronted with some information that is true? Oh, by the way, it's truth. And that said truth conflicts with the way you have thought about the world and have acted accordingly for the last 50 years. If you came across truth that was different than what you've known, how would you react? Because I'll tell you how I would react. I'm 44. Here's how I would react. Man, amazing, awesome, thank you. Thank you for giving me the truth. I will now adapt to said truth. And I just question, see, because you're so set in your ways, Juan Galt. This is where our whole disagreement has sprout from. You have done things a certain way because you believed a certain thing for a long time. It's a logical fallacy. It's an appeal to a length of time. Just because you've done something a certain way or believed a certain thing for a length of time doesn't make it right, doesn't make it true. That's why I'm asking, hey, what if you were exposed to something that changed all of that? Again, Juan Galt, I'm just saying, that needs to be something worth thinking of. Like, how does the length of time that I believe something affect my judgment of current truth? Now, I'm not suggesting I have it. I'm not suggesting you have it. I'm suggesting that maybe it's worth discussion. I might be wrong. I'm an investigator. I'm investigating.
Well, I'll respond.
Go ahead.
First of all, I would have to consider the source that would be relaying this information to me as a purveyor of truth. And knowing what these principles are that I believe in, I can say unequivocally that there's no truth, quote unquote, that someone can present to me that would convince me that these principles are wrong.
But what if they could? How would that affect your life?
Well, like I say, knowing what the principles are, they can't give me any truth that I would believe that is contrary to these principles. So
they can't give me anything that I would believe. That is so key. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that was really crucial. You're proving my point. Go ahead.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is who is the purveyor of what is and what is not truth?
Great question. That's a great question. Upon everything else lies that question. That's a great question.
And I have answered that for my personal beliefs. And the purveyor of the purveyor of my truth is me.
Wow, that's a hell of a way to live. That's for sure. I don't know what to do with that. I have no pillar upon which to lean, my friend.
Well, that's this is not a matter of you finding a way to address my belief system on these particular principles to which I am alluding.
I'm not suggesting that it's any kind of job of mine to do such. I'm just trying to explore the nature of your thinking with you as a buddy. Is that fair enough?
Sure. Then I would have thought to explore, you would have asked me, what are these principles? I mean, that's just,
again, dude, don't. I mean, when you suggest I should have asked something. All right. So, Juan Galt, when you say to me, like, well, you should have asked this, I mean, imagine me saying that to you. Well, you should have asked this. Like, that would never happen. Don't do that. Is that fair enough? Just don't do that. Right.
Well, it's probably because I'm a professional questioner. So I look at things in a sequence to answer a certain question. And when a question is, presented that has no basis in foundation because of lack of knowledge of the presenter. And that's all I was saying.
No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. However, I'll say this for the first time. I'm going to say it many more times by the end of this conversation, I think. The important thing is who decides? Who decides? So when you say a statement like that, when you judge something like that, it's all about who decides. How do you know that what you think is correct? How does your radar work? How do you know?
Because I know myself. And to thine own self be true. You know, I don't think anybody's going to be able to convince me that I don't think rugged individualism and the individual superior to government or whatever is a bad principle upon which to live.
Okay. I would not try to dissuade you from such an opinion. I am simply trying to clarify.
Well, that's one of the foundations upon which I speak about the Constitution. If going back to your original question, if I could magically change things the way I thought would work real good.
Well, that was a subcomponent of the main gist of what I was trying to bring to the table, which is, what if you're wrong? How would it affect your life? Here's where I'm really going with this. If you see evidence that could be true, you might reject the fuck out of it because you believe in a certain way for 50, 40, 30, whatever years. You might reject truth. When it comes across your radar, truth might be rejected. Because you're like, all right, go ahead, man. Go ahead. Interrupt me. Go ahead.
We hold these truths to be self-evident.
Jesus. Thanks for that. So, Juan Galt, all I'm suggesting is that maybe the truth shouldn't be rejected because it conflicts with something that you have believed in for 40 years plus. Maybe the truth shouldn't be rejected for that reason. I'm not saying I know shit you don't know and I know this and I'm trying to impart wisdom against. I'm not suggesting any such thing. You might know shit I don't know. I'm sure you do. I'm not trying to be better than you. I'm just suggesting that you think you believe. Anyway, Juan Galt, my point. Just because people wrote some stuff like, I don't know, 240 plus years ago, the smartest of them, slave owning and all, you're looking back on that going, well, that's awesome. Well, we should follow that. Today, in 2020, we should follow that. Really? Really? They didn't even have electricity. And they owned people.
Electricity.
Like, oh, yeah. Oh, the wisdom of those sages way back then. Oh, that's awesome. We should follow that today. Really?
The electricity thing is totally a red herring because I'm talking about basic first principles. You're talking about inventions.
Okay, then let's shift to what you're... Okay, so Juan Galt, red herring, you were saying?
Well, first of all, if we're going to transport this into the 2020, of course, there are no slaves, so anything in the Constitution that references slavery is, moot.
Let's get off the slavery thing for a second. Let's get on to everything the quote-unquote Constitution has birthed in 2020. Apparently, you. Go ahead.
Well, I'm not talking about, you asked me originally, if I had 2 wishes magically, what would I do? And I've just told you that I would take everything away since the original Constitution, and anything that was passed prior to that in an amendment is what I would accept as the only way this country operated.
That was confusing. I'm trying to follow what you said.
Okay. When the Constitution in its original form and intent, for instance, the federal government had no interaction with the individual whatsoever, had no rights to anything they did, and that went on for over 100 years that way.
No, it didn't. But okay, go ahead.
The federal government didn't touch the individual until 1913, when the income tax amendment was passed. Other than that, there was no federal taxes that individuals paid.
I'm going to give you one example. Let's just consider this one. So, have you ever heard of the Whiskey Rebellion? Like, Google that real quick in the background.
Don't have to. I'm aware of the Whiskey Rebellion.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I don't know why you could ever conclude a statement like the federal government has never touched the individual. I mean, right from the roots, they were touching individuals. They basically said, you will pay us a certain... Your beloved George Washington marched 20,000 armed men across the country to the Midwest and said, you will give us what we say you owe, motherfuckers. Otherwise, kaboom. And they did. They picked... How can you say the federal government and the individual are some kind of a symbiotic relation? Get the fuck out of here right now with that nonsense. That's never been... Throughout all of human history, no federal government in any shape or form has had any respect to any degree for the individual. How can you say that?
Okay, now would you like the real story of the Whiskey Rebellion, or you just want to go with your version? Let me give you my version. First of all, it did not tax individuals because not everybody paid it. Secondly, it was not on individuals; it was on a product called alcohol. Okay, so secondly, it only affected about 7 counties, I think, and those were the ones that the farmers got all up in arms and marched on Washington. Nobody was ever killed. Nobody was shot. As a matter of fact, the thing was
because they didn't resist.
The thing was repealed, and bada bing, bada boom. That was the Whiskey Rebellion.
Hold on, Dix. I want to hear this.
Hey, no, it was okay because, hey, guns were pointed, but no one was hurt. Therefore, it's defensible.
No, I get it. I saw that. I saw it coming too. I just want to listen to that other part of the story. In either case, it has not established that the federal government did not touch the individual. In fact, it proved everything that the federal government did attack the individual for its individual product.
I just want to make one point, and then I'm out of this conversation. I'm out. I'm just going to listen after this. This is hilarious. So, Juan Galt, right now, if I'm next to you in your house, and I have a gun to your head, give me money, and you give it to me, and then you're later defending it because no one was hurt. That's okay. Because that's just the logic that you just used. That's why.
Well, we were speaking on a political issue and how it was handled, and you were talking about going against the individual. And this was if this was a tax on individuals,
if you have a hard time looking at
everybody would have had to pay. It's that simple. So it was not a tax on the individuals. The federal government did not reach the individuals, or everybody would have paid, and everybody.
Okay, I'm just going to talk to the broad audience because I'm done talking to this guy. This is a man who, for 50 years, has set in his ways hard. And when he looks in the mirror, he can't look back with a satisfactory understanding of who he is. This is a man, and this is government. They justify anything. They twist and turn everything into, it's okay because blank. If someone has a gun to your head and they say, give me money, and you do, and then they claim it was nonviolent, that's insanity. That is a psychopath. And they're wired, their brain is wired in a way that you and I will never understand. They are just okay with violence. And free men will not tolerate this nonsense. And that is why Juan Galt and I have had differences, respectful, with all due respect, as much as I can muster over the years, is for this exact issue. He justifies the state. That's why I started with, what would happen if your belief in the state was wrong? Which he could never, he's like, short circuit, I don't know how to,
No.
Started to go sideways. So here's where he interjects. You're on target when they interrupt you.
Yeah. No, because you're not being honest with the what you're saying. I have never. And
when you get interrupted, when you know you're on target. Notice the target I hit. The short circuit. His brain just can't handle it. Go ahead.
The biggest lies are the ones we tell ourselves.
Okay. The bottom line is, I have never supported the state in the manner that you're saying. That's the whole thing. You're saying that I've held this strong belief, and I promote the state, and I can't be shown that government is wrong, and that is totally opposite of what I said.
Rebellion.
I believe.
You defended the Whiskey Rebellion, and you say I am inaccurate when I say you're defending the state. You just defended the Whiskey fucking Rebellion. I brought it up because it was back in the day. You're saying
I explained what actually I explained what actually went down, and now you're saying I supported it. I told you what went down.
You did not accurately say what went down. Yes, you did support it. The narrative, you totally supported. Well, George Washington, no one got hurt. No one got hurt. Just because guns were pointed at their heads and saying, pay me, with a 20,000 man army across 4 states to the Midwest. No one got hurt, so it's all fine. You believed in this shit for 50 years. When you hear the truth, you won't know it. You're going to go to your grave not acknowledging the truth. You call yourself a badass lawyer? I call you a badass bullshitter. You're going to go to your grave like that, Juan Galt. Wow. Because you're too invested. That's how it is. All right, go ahead, Juan Galt. Or not.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion, ethics, about me, about life, about world, about history. It doesn't affect me one bit, and you're entitled to it.
Agreed. It doesn't affect you one bit. And I wouldn't say I'm entitled. I try and go by logic and ethics. But, hey, that's not the standard. That's cool. I mean, I have no butthurt over your opinions. Yes, I strongly disagree. But that doesn't mean I'm all upset about it. You're just gonna do you until you die. You will die. and your opinions will die with you. Because there's something new that's coming up that you're not going to be alive to witness. That's beyond you. It's beyond your thinking. It's beyond your capacity to think. If you think the Whiskey Rebellion is just acceptable, go on ahead now. I'll salute you while I lower you 6 feet down. But you are not the future.
If you're thinking.
Either by words or by the sword, this will happen.